Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Mindful Investor podcast show. I'm Steve Rosenberg, and I am your host today on the Mindful Investor. And today we're going to talk about a lot of things that people are trying to accomplish when it comes to their goals. I think a lot of people want to have this life that they see on social media and these lives of these people that are doing these $30, $50 million syndication deals. But I think once the show is over, a lot of people don't really know how to get there, and maybe they get a little discouraged. And I think it's one of these things that a lot of us are always trying to figure out this Rubik's Cube type. Well, do people even know Rubik's Cubes now? Maybe not. I don't know if those are making a comeback, but for me and Michael, we probably know what they are. But
oh yeah,
I think a lot of people are trying to figure out how to actually crack this code. And Michael and I were just talking before the show, and I think it's important just to understand, how do you get one? Like, how do you cross the starting line when you're trying to become a successful investor? And don't worry about the finish line. Let's just even get going down the road. So Michael Zuber is an author, and he's a very, very accomplished ex-Silicon Valley person that now is fully into real estate. He has a book called One Rental at a Time, which I read, which was a great book, by the way. And he just does a lot of stuff online. If you haven't seen him online, definitely need to follow him. But Michael, welcome to the show. You've been on before, and I just thought it'd be great to have you back and get an update. So thank you for taking the time to be with me today.
yeah, Steve. I love what you're doing. Thanks for the shout out on the book. It means a lot to me. But yeah, I'm willing to give my time, which I am very selective on, to people that I think are doing great things. And you and the Mindful Podcast Show is something that is important. So I will come on anytime you ask.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. So let's talk a little bit about, what do you do? What is your specialty? What is your superpower? And then maybe we can dig a little bit deeper to say, what are you seeing in the industry in your specific market right now?
Yeah, so so that's sort of three questions in there. I'll try to go through them all. Ask again if I miss them. So what do? I am known for being a buy and hold investor, right? One rental at a time is my story. It was a 15-year journey from buying a single house to financial freedom. I did that, as you mentioned, while working a crazy, busy, and stressful Silicon Valley sales job. So I am a buy and hold investor who bought and built a portfolio of rental properties in a city that I never lived in. That's kind of who I am. What is my superpower? That is evolved. Now, the more and more I help people, the more and more I tell our story, it has come to be very obvious that my superpower is the ability to focus in on what is important and ignore everything else. In building this portfolio, I had two things to do because my day was full. I had a 12 to 14-hour day job. I was raising a family. I was married. I chose a market that I never lived in, all of these things. So my superpower was I needed to learn my market. I need to understand what Fresno, California produces as an average return. And once I understood what average is, my job and my only job was to do either good or great deals. That may sound easy or fuzzy, but trust me, lots of new investors come in, they get excited, they look online, they see 3 properties and they buy the orange one. Well, how do you know the orange one is any good? Maybe it's the blue one, maybe it's the red one. I don't know. But see, that's the difference. Is I have looked at my market now every day for 20 years. Not many people can say that. And I can go through an entire MLS in Fresno, California, which is 1 million people, in probably 15 or 20 minutes. And I can usually find 2 or 3 above average deals. So when new investors come to me and they say, well, I've been looking for a week, or I've looked at, 12 properties and I can't find anything and I'm getting outbid. Y'all don't get it. I've been doing this for 20 years. The market is always changing. Lending is always changing. What is hot one minute is cold the next minute. So I am in, and that's my superpower is I continually do the stuff that works over and over. And oh, by the way, not only is it over and over, but I enjoy it. The hunt for the next deal is awesome. So that's my superpower.
Let me ask you this. I think this is important. You took a leap of faith, I'll say, in the beginning by going out to another city. And I'm assuming because what you wanted didn't exist in the markets that you were in, which is, the Bay Area, which we all know is very overpriced, high priced, I should say.
Oh, no, it's overpriced. You don't have to sugarcoat it.
Yes, it is overpriced. But let me ask you this: what drew you to Fresno, and what was some determining factors for people that are maybe having the same challenge?
Uh,
What drew you to another city? And I mean, it doesn't have to be Fresno, but what drew you
yeah,
to go to another city, and what drivers
yeah.
would you look at, and were those the right drivers that you would give the same advice today for the Michael Zuber 20 years later?
Ah, those are some serious questions. So let's paint the whole picture. So first and foremost, why real estate? Well, my story begins with a $100,000 loss in the stock market. Right, I was a very successful day trader for about 18 months. Have the tax returns to prove it, and then all of a sudden the stock market changed. Oh, by the way, we could be in one of those markets now where the market is ridiculously good. Money, stocks only go up, blah, blah, blah. Yes, I have invested in that world. It was called the 1999.com era. And I have made lots of money for 18 months, ridiculous amounts of money. I lost it all and then some. So I'm first off a burned out stock market investor. Then I go to a bookstore with a tail between my leg, feeling like a failure, right? Because I was worth X and now I'm worth X minus. And I find real estate. So that's the first thing is real estate is tangible. It's slower moving. It offers inefficiencies that I thought I could exploit if I learned the market. So that's why real estate. So now all the books I'm reading say invest 30 minutes from home. Well, as you just said, I happen to live in Silicon Valley, but I didn't know any better. So I spent the entire year of 2002 looking for the magic street every Sunday. The wife and I would get in the car and we'd drive somewhere, right? Now it's called driving for dollars. That's what it wasn't called, but that's what we did. 52 weeks later, nothing. We don't even write an offer. I mean, nothing makes sense, right? Because we want cash flow. So after the 52nd week, Olivia, who's my wife, comes out, pulls out the California map and says, either we pick somewhere else or we're done, right? She is burnt out, pissed off, annoyed. She doesn't like losing Sundays to this activity anymore. So we start drawing circles around where we live, right? 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes. And we finally get to Fresno, California, which is the first market that offers anything that's even close to relevance, right? We find a house on North Drive, which we ultimately buy. It was 107 grand, rented for 1,100, right? It made sense. I didn't have to build my spreadsheet until it cried to show cash flow. So why Fresno? I mean, in the beginning, just because the number made sense and I felt like I had to do something, right? I just wasted a year of my life that I never got back. So that's why we jumped in. What I've since realized is I got lucky, right? What made Fresno make sense? And I would tell Mike Zuber today, I like investing in a city with size. At the time, Fresno was 500,000 people. It's now 1 million people, right? It wasn't a town, right? If I would have picked a town, the story could have been very different, right? Because they go up and down at different rates. Big employer comes and goes, we're toast. The other thing is quality of life. I didn't know it at the time, but I happened to pick a city in California, which is ridiculously expensive, that still today you can live on for 60 grand a year. Back then it was 50 grand a year. So there's lots of people that can live there on minimum wage, right? Minimum wage in the Bay Area, damn near the minimum wage in Fresno. You can have a full-time job at McDonald's and rent the stuff that I own, right? That it's just a different life. So those are things that I like. I like buying below the median. The median today in Fresno is 320. I like to buy if that's the median about, around 200, right? So lots of things I would tell people today. Median, blue collar areas, invest in a city, not a town, just because you have more flexibility. And the other thing I did that I would tell people is get focused, right? I never bounced around. I thought about going somewhere else like Texas, Colorado, Arizona in 2006 and 7 when Fresno got crazy. That first house I bought for 107, we sold for 264 and it's still rented for 1,100. Whoa. That just doesn't work. It doesn't work. So we did a bunch of 1031 exchanges into small apartment buildings and we stayed in Fresno. We knew the team, we built the team. We fired a lot of people along the way because it was our business. So you have to fire people because not everybody is who they say they are in this business. So lots of lessons learned. The last thing I'll close with, it is absolutely possible to do. To have a better financial future with rentals is absolutely possible if you're conservative and you understand and learn what a good or great deal is.
Now, I think what's interesting, I want to talk about the team a little bit because a lot of people, this is where a lot of people I think fail. And I think it's a huge link, as you know, in this whole chain. And you said something interesting where you fired a lot of people. And I think what people need to realize is the people that you start out with, the person you are when you start investing, nobody is going to be the same. They're not going to be the same people, same skill sets that you need as you grow. Maybe you have one property and then you grow to 50 properties. Well, if this is a person that can only handle and has a business model scalability of 5 properties, that's not the person you're going to grow with. So you're going to grow out of and into new people, and vice versa. They may not want to grow, and it may be mutual. They may not have the mindset. So I think it's important that people realize that as you grow, the people that get you to a certain level are not going to be the people that get you to the next level. You have to elevate yourself as well as elevating the people and the team around you. Now, what's interesting about your story is how many nights have you actually spent in Fresno?
I have slept in Fresno 0 times.
That is just amazing, because it's not, I mean, yes, you can go up and back every day, which, obviously I'm sure many times you had to do at some point, but to never have to spend the night there and say, you know what, screw it, I'm in the middle of something, I'll come back. How did you do that?
Well, I didn't have a choice. I happened to have a day job that really was a 6-a-day-a-week job. I was traveling all over the world. My week started on Sunday, and I often wouldn't get home till Fridays. So the only day I had was Saturday. So I had to go up and back. We would leave early sometimes, right? We would leave at 5 a.m. because it's 2.5 hours away. So if we left at 5, we'd usually get there about 8:15 because we'd stop somewhere for coffee or to stretch our legs or whatever. We'd spend 4 to 5 hours. So from 8 to 12, 8 to 1, looking at properties, dealing with property management issues, looking at the next deal. And then we drive home. We typically have dinner somewhere on the way home, and we're back by, 6:30. But there are some times where maybe I was doing a speaking engagement or I had to go to an event where I wouldn't get home till 1 a.m. And you just do what you got to do. And, part of this thing is sacrificing, not only sacrificing money, time, and energy, but sometimes you got to sacrifice a little sleep. It was important for me never to spend a night in Fresno because my day job would keep me in hotels somewhere between 100 and 150 nights a year. And I didn't want my side hustle to add on top of that. I had enough of being a platinum member at hotels. It's not a badge of honor I ever want again.
Yeah, that's very important because, I've got I don't know if you know my good friend, Carl Yarber. He's up in Seattle, and I was at his house one day and we were talking, and he said, my life used to be like this, and this was my job. And I always had to fit my life around my job. Yeah. And he said, one day we just did it upside down. We said, you know what? Here's our life. Let's make our jobs work around us. Oh, and we're going to live that way every day. And we're going to make our anything we do, it's got to work around our lifestyle. And I thought that was a very interesting way to look at it. It is. Very, very, deep is prolific if you want to look at it that way, but it's also very simplistic, and it's very intriguing to do that. And it's almost so simple you think it wouldn't work, but that's the reason it does work, because it is simple. And it's just I
think the greatest mindset shifts are simple like that. For me, one of the biggest mindset shifts for me in the beginning was I thought it was about the dollars first. It's not about the dollars. Real estate's a people business, right? It's about the people. And when I got that, my business exploded, right? I had a few houses. I think we had 8 or 9 when I was just about the numbers, but my business exploded when I turned it into about the people. Again, a simple shift, and it's the greatest shifts are simple.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny you say that, because I have said many times, you're in the people business. You are selling a service. And, this is a capitalistic society that if people don't like what you offer, they really don't need it. So if you want to be rude to a tenant or rude to a contractor or treat them, belittle them, at the end of the day, they can leave. You're still going to have the problem of a stopped up toilet, of a property that's not turning revenue. And you may win psychologically by thinking that you're better than them, but you will lose financially. And so, it's one of those things where you have to make a choice. But again, you are in the service industry. And I think a lot of people have a hard time understanding that. And they think that, well, I own the property, they have to do what I say. Not true. Furthest from the truth.
I hope people are hearing this. And if not, they need to rewind and listen to that again. Because what happens in a hot market, and again, I've been doing this for 20 years, right? There are some markets where you can throw a stone and you can find a deal. But what happens in a hot market like we are in today in, August of 2020, my network is bringing me deals. I can't find anything that's publicly available. Everything that's online is ridiculously overpriced or gets bid up to ridiculous prices. So the 2 deals that I've done in this pandemic, I've done because of my network, because I've proven to close when I say I'm going to close. I'm proven to be somebody who, if we agree on a price, I'm not going to retrade you. You need to think about this. You want to go fight a contractor or a tenant or a realtor or whatever one time to prove a point. Ouch. That reputation sticks. Other people will hear it, and you may not get that phone call about that next deal. So yeah, I hope they heard you.
Yeah, very true. And I want to shift a little bit and talk about your model, because you're very hyper focused. And I was taught by a mentor, and like you, I've been doing this for close to 20 years. I've got all my licks and I've got my scars on my back from all the challenges. And but the one thing I remember someone told me once, he said, it was a mentor of mine. He said, Steve, he said, the riches are in the niches. Yeah. And he said, the more hyper focused you can be on a subject, a topic, whatever you do, he said, that is where you will be able to help people the most, number one. But he said, number two, that is where you will be able to shine and will make the most revenue that you ever can, than being this wide shotgun spray mentality. So let's talk, because I know you're big. Your book is one rental at a time, right? And I'm a big believer in being that focused person. And I think a lot of us, we overlook and we do not take into account the mindset challenges that once the cameras are off and we're sitting at home at nighttime trying to go to sleep, and the things that are running through our heads is really that to me is where the success starts. And I've always said, everybody's focused on the finish line. Yeah. No one even thinks about just even getting across the starting line. And a lot of people never even get started. Now you take people and, instead of having this grandiose syndication model of $50 million and this and that, like we see these people on podcasts, you take it the other way and say, let's just do 4 properties, right? So can we talk a little bit about that and how that evolved?
Yes. Yeah. So, thank you for that question. This is important. This is something that's involved since the last time we spoke on your podcast. Is in the past, I used to think, hey, we made financial freedom. It took us 15 years. Share that story so other people get inspired and take action. So that's what I did. I told the story, the warts and the good and all of that. And everybody goes, congratulations, we're so happy for you, blah, 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 blah. But that's not meaningful to me. I don't need accolades. I don't need pats on the back. I am trying to help people do something. And that I was failing, right? I was failing. So after doing it for a little while, in a year, I decided, you know what? We've got to start this different. We have to talk about getting to 4 properties, because I believe everybody fundamentally can talk about 4. And what I've now done, instead of talking about financial freedom, I talk about, let's have a better financial future. And if I can get you to 4 and you only ever do 4, I'm going to call that success. I'm going to feel good about myself. You're going to feel good. And, we've done something. Because what happens when you get to 4, you can either stop, good, or you go, wow, those first 4 felt pretty good. Let me go to 10. And then if you get to 10, then you can maybe talk about financial freedom, right? So I got to get you in the starting block. I got to get you to take action on 1, right? If you can get to 1, you can get to 4. If you can get to 4, you can get to 10. So that is a huge shift in my story. I rarely talk about financial freedom anymore because it's a bridge too far. It gets you accolades. It maybe gets you clicks online, but that I don't care about any of that stuff. I'm sitting here comfortable, happy in life, trying to help people up the financial freedom curve. And that starts with a better financial future. So what I tell people today is, you know what? Let's get hyper-focused. I want to talk about you in your market. I want you to go look at, like, how did I start? How did I find Norris Drive, which is the first house we bought? I picked a zip code in Fresno. I never lived in Fresno. I didn't know anybody in Fresno. I found a zip code online that I thought had bread and butter homes. Great. So for me, that was 93703. It's called the Mayfair District. I then started going, okay, I'm going to look every day, right? And then pretty soon what I was able to figure out is, what is an average deal in Mayfair for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,200 to 1,500 square foot home? And then I was able to find it. Okay, finally found a good deal. We did the deal and we moved forward. So what I really do with people is I try to take it down. Real estate investing is a broad topic that offers a gazillion ways to do it. And lots of people go 1,000 directions and never get anywhere. So if you're going to follow what I talk about, one rental at a time, we are going to get hyper focused. I'm going to take you down to a zip code in your market. I'm going to take you down to a single asset type in your market. It's going to have a set of criteria where you're looking at between 20 and 40 homes a day. And you can't write an offer until you can intelligently tell me or someone that you trust what the average deal is. Like today in Fresno, California, I can tell you the average deal is 6%, right? The average house produces 6%. What was the average deal in 2010? It was 15%, very different market, right? So once you can figure out average, and I don't care what average is. If you're in San Francisco, average is 1%. If you're in Detroit, maybe it's 9. I don't pick markets. I teach learn average, because once you know average, you can be Warren Buffett. If you know what average is, you can only you don't have to say yes to everything. Just do good and great deals, and it's proven to work. People are just the ability to tell people, you know what? Let's get hyper focused. Let's only spend 10 to 20 minutes a day looking. It's helpful because if you're new, you can get lost in the MLS. You can get lost in the cities. You can get lost, and you don't actually do anything. So I teach hyper focus.
So let me ask you this. What do you see is the biggest reason that people do not cross the starting line? What is, you've been doing this for 20 years. You talk to a ton of people.
Yeah.
Why don't they get started? What is it?
I think it is the going 50 directions an inch at a time, because think about what we see online, right? Oh, wholesaling's hot. Flipping is hot. Oh, I got to be a private money lender. I got to buy mobile home parks. I got to be part of a syndication. I have to be the general partner. I got to be the limited partner. Oh, multifamily's hot. Bigger is better. Then you throw on that. Where do I invest? Oh, the South. No, the North. No, tax friendly states. No, Republican states. They confuse activity with action. And that's what I'm about.
That's good.
No, I only want you to spend 15 minutes a day looking at your market on one set of criteria. It only can be between 20 and 40 listings. That's all I want you to do. Everything else you ignore. And why did I do that? Because that's all the time I had, Steve. I was working 10 to 14 hours a day, not including plane flights, right? I would often be in one city at 9 a.m. I would be out of that city by 6. I would be in another city by 11. I'd be out of that city the next day. I didn't have time. I was looking online, sometimes at 11:30 at night, sometimes 5 in the morning. That's all the time I had, brother. When I talk about how to learn one rental at a time in my course is fucking because that's all I had to do. That's all the time I had. I couldn't do all this other sexy stuff. I just had to do that.
How do you get people to push out all of the other things going on? Because look, I hear what you're saying and I get it. And I think that I 100% agree with you. But I think the challenge a lot of people have is they start getting around their friends. Oh, why are you going to go to Fresno? Like, Fresno's not a good market. Oh, do you own property in Fresno? No, I don't own real estate.
Yeah.
Okay, so then why are you giving me advice on something that you know nothing about? Well, I've got a friend that did it and he had a horrible experience.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's like saying I had a friend that was in a car accident on the freeway one day, so don't drive your car.
Exactly.
So, I think that, I think this is such a huge, huge challenge for people. And I think that helping them break through these barriers, and what I call them is non-negotiables. I say, you have to come up with non-negotiables that you're going to do every day, whether it's writing your IM statements or your journal or figuring out, at least you're going to look at 5 properties or whatever that is for you that makes you successful. But it seems like it's so hard to get people to actually take those steps. And you know it, right? I know it. We see it. We know if they do this work, they will be successful. I mean, it's like we almost want to jump to the screen and start doing it for them. Just say, look, I'm going to show you that this works.
Yeah.
But for some reason, they don't. And it's like, I tell people, and then again, this is just my experience, that a lot of times motivation will only carry you so far.
Yeah.
Having your why and your reason and your end destination already set up, written out, drawn up so that you know that's where I'm going. That is my destination. And so that when your motivation dies, now your non-negotiables kick in and your why is what carries you through that. And so, and again, I don't know if there's an answer. I think this is the common question a lot of people like you and I do. I mean, I think what I have learned is that once you get over the hump of one, and I've gone back and talked to a lot of people, and I'm sure you have too, it starts accelerating. The acceleration rate of them picking up momentum. And they realize that all the things that they told themselves, all the concerns, everything, probably none of them came true, right? I mean, they had challenges and they worked through those challenges like we all do. Yeah. And when it's all done, you said, so did any of these things actually happen that you thought were going to happen, these worst case scenarios? No. Okay, so why can't you do this 3-4 times? And so how do you notice people that accelerate past the one mark? What have you noticed from that point?
Yeah, I think in all of that, the thing that I've gotten really hyper focused on, again, it's that activity and action kind of comment, is what I tell people is just because you're looking for 2 or 3 hours a day at real estate investing, that doesn't impress me. So what I get really hyper focused on is I want you to only spend 20 minutes, maybe 30 a day. That's it. Then you're off to doing the rest of your life, right? We have families, we have jobs, we have all these things. Once you tell somebody that you only have 20 minutes, they have to get hyper focused.
Yeah.
Right. So I try to set a limit. It's game changing, right? People again think if they spend 3 hours a day, deals will just fall on their head. No, it's the shotgun approach. What I tell them is I just get, I'm very black and white, right? I'm like, you got 20 minutes a day. What are you going to do? Well, I don't know. Well, here's what I suggest. Pick a zip code, pick an asset type, pick a size, because that's all you have time for. And that just declutters the situation. Then they write an offer because they can say, hey, Mike, I picked Cleveland, Ohio, and I looked at this zip code for 87 days in a row, and I finally found this street at 123 Main Street that's better deal than I've ever seen. Congratulations, you wrote an offer. You may not get it, but just the act of writing an offer because you know it's a great deal, life-changing. You'll eventually get one.
Yeah.
And then
I agree.
It starts from there.
Now, when does the team building in that city start in your process? When do you recommend they start actually reaching out to build that team?
Day one, even before you write an offer. It's funny. I am so focused on helping people. I actually created, you probably know this, you've heard of the 75-day hard challenge, correct?
Yes.
Right. Work out twice a day, drink a gallon of water, read 10 pages, that.
Andy Frisella.
Andy Frisella, it's awesome. I blatantly stole his idea. Blatantly. I said, I love this thing. I've seen it change people's physiques and attitudes. I'm like, I am freaking tired of people asking me about real estate investing, but they have no money, right? I'm like, all right, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to take Andy's idea and I'm going to create something called the 75-day hard challenge for real estate investors. So I did. It's 8 things. And I have a playlist on my channel. They're all 3 to 5 minutes long, all your 8 activities. From memory, it is look at the market twice a day. It is build your network. It is talk to one new person a day, right? Now that could be email or over the phone or in person if you're in your market. It is track your expenses. It's all of these things. It's all focused. I, again, blatantly stole his idea for the 75-day hard challenge. It is 100% free. It's 8 things. And if you have no money, you're young, whatever your excuse is, I've already had students tell me that they're like halfway through it and they're like, oh my God, I get it now. They all tie on each other. It's really a fun challenge. It's hard. And here's the deal. I've done everything in that challenge for the last 20 years. So it's not, I created it out of my experience. So take a look at it.
Wow. Yeah, I'll have to take a look. That's great. What I've learned with a lot of people that start to build that team is, and this kind of goes back to communication is a couple things. Number one, you have to go from the doer role to the leader role when you're doing this, because now you are the leader, CEO of a company that you have team. And I think the biggest challenge I've seen is a lot of people have a hard time communicating what their goals and visions are to the team, because they think, oh, he's just a property management company, or he's the vendor that does painting. Well, yes, you're paying them for a service, I get that. But people follow a vision and they follow a leader. And if they believe in the vision of what you're doing and they understand where you're going, I firmly believe that they're more apt to help you and be a part of this when they're following that vision and they're following that leader. And I think that they never actually, well, first of all, they never actually communicate what their goals and their vision are to their team, right? Number one. And number two, they never actually ask them, what do they want out of this, right? Now, it may just be money. They may want to grow their business. They may want other connections. But I've noticed a lot of investors, they just think like, I'm just going to do what I need to do, and I'm not going to share this information, and I don't want to look dumb. So, their ego and pride steps in, which is the biggest money killer, of all time. Absolutely. But I think that, I think it's a big disadvantage when you never ask the other person, what do you want out of this? Like, how can I help you with your business? And it sounds so simple, but yet, I mean, I've done this with many, many of my contractors and vendors that I work with. And they love the fact that I've actually asked them. They said, Steve, no one ever asked me what I wanted. Like, they just treat me like I'm a contractor, which I am. And I said, well, you are, but you also have a business. And I want to make sure that I'm like, am I getting you closer to your goal, or am I taking you further away? Because if I'm investing time in working with you and building this relationship, I don't want it to be wasted time. Like you said, we only have so many hours in the day. We've got to be focused. Well, wouldn't it make sense that if some guy says, look, I don't want more business, I'm happy. And I'm sitting there trying to flood this guy with business. And all of a sudden now I get upset because I'm like, I got you all this business. And he's going to say, you never asked me. I never actually wanted more business. Yeah. And so I think that's the challenge is, and again, this is that leader mentality that you have to be able to communicate and share your vision. A lot of people say, well, I don't know my vision. And I say, well, that's a bigger problem, because if you don't have it, how's anyone else going to know? Right. And how are you going to know what a deal is, and how are you going to know these things? And I mean, what's your take on that? That's how I do it. That's how I live. And that's how I run things. So I'm just curious.
Yeah. I don't know that I've ever named it leader, but it's absolutely that. I mean, one thing that I think we talked about last time, my profession, the last 12 or 13 years of my career was leading sales teams. So I would have sales quotas from 50 million up to $1 billion. And the only way you can tackle these goals with the portfolio of products I had is being a leader and managing teams and expectations and all of that. So it applies to real estate investing. Your job as the leader, as we're calling it here, is to set the expectation, manage expectations, and to communicate. Ask them what they want. Ask them what they're doing. Sometimes, just asking about contractors, some of them could say, hey, I need to, slot in some smaller jobs every once in a while. So is it okay that I don't work for you on Mondays? Great. Because you want to balance your business and all that. Great. I'll plan for you to be here just 4 days a week. No problem. I will plan other things around you, right? I'll have my roofer come in on Monday instead of, all those things. So communication is paramount. And more importantly, I really believe it's cross communication, because once you get a portfolio of size, right, we meet about once every 6 months with the quote team, right? So I have contractors, property managers, realtors, investors, and it used to be in person, right? Before this whole health crisis came about, we'd come in, we'd bring pizza, whatever it is. Now we do it virtually. And it's amazing to watch the communication, because these people need to work together. And sometimes they don't get along, right? My contractor needs to get paid. My property manager is out on a project and can't issue a check. So we clean up communication, face to names. I have to make that whole ecosystem run as smooth as possible. And that's my job. If there is sand in the gears, that's my problem. And you need to own that stuff as leaders, and you need to constantly tinker and improve and keep moving forward. So I'm glad you talk about that.
Yeah, we actually used to have at the end of the year, when I owned my property management company before I sold it, we used to have a vendor appreciation party at the end of the year, where we would bring them in, and we had awards. We'd say, like, he earned the most revenue. He got the most 5-star reviews. He had the least callbacks. And we had plaques made, and we'd give them plaques. Nice. And they were like, oh my God, no one has ever done this. And I'll tell you what, it melded relationships, number one. Whenever in the future we needed something, they're like, you're first on my list. Because it was just a matter of showing appreciation. But like you said, so much more important was when we'd have those conversations, and the property managers, and they would, the vendors were in there, and they'd say, why do you guys do this? And then they would explain, well, this is why we have this. They go, oh, I thought you guys were just lazy. I thought it was like, no, we have a reason. They're like, oh, I never knew that. So had you never had that communication, and it's not me communicating, I'm just bringing the team together, showing value. And again, what does it cost? Like you said, pizza, this and that, get some plaques made.
Nothing.
It's the value of showing them what their worth is and showing them that you appreciate them. And because at the end of the day, Michael Zuber is the CEO, but they don't see Michael Zuber. Your residents see the property management company. They see the contractor. They see the painter.
Yeah.
Those are basically a representation of who Michael Zuber is. So
Absolutely.
all they're going to say is Michael Zuber sucks because he didn't fix my toilet. Well, that's the contractor, but that's in the eyes of the tenant. They're moving out because they're blaming you. And so again, I think they have to realize that they are a representation of you. And I think that a lot of people, when I see people going through contractors all the time, I tell them, I think we have a leadership problem. You don't have a contractor problem. Like, and I'll ask them, like, do you ever do an expectation conversation with each contractor saying, this is what you can expect of me. This is when I pay you. This is when I return text messages, phone calls. This is how you communicate. This is my SOP of how I operate. Let me make sure, what do you want out of me? Like, what do you want me to know about you? And you set up those lines of communication. So down the road, they're going, hey, I need to get paid right away. It's like, we had this conversation. This is how I operate. Like, let's just, if this is a one-off, I get, and we can work through that. But this is not the norm. And so we had very little kickback from contractors and vendors because we took the time in the beginning to actually set up the proper meeting expectations. Because you've only spent 0 nights in Fresno. That's because you built such a good team. I would basically say Michael's a good leader and Michael knows how to build a good team. And that is why, because if not, the stuff still has to get done. It just doesn't have to get done by you, and it's getting done by other people on your team.
Absolutely. Yeah. I appreciate
that. So let's kind of, we got a couple minutes left. I'd like to know, like, what's going on, like, snapshot today, right? We're still in this pandemic. Everything's going on. What's going on in Fresno, and where do you see the future of all this going?
Yeah. So I look at the market every day. I love talking about this stuff. I can tell you my opinion today changed from January. That's just how fast this stuff changes. So today in my market, we have the lowest inventory I've ever seen of available product, which is saying something again, because I've been looking for 20 years. We're just about a month's supply for single family homes. Anything that is clean, that basically can pass FHA lending standards, is getting overbid. My greatest example for you is there was a house that was listed for $199 that I could probably make work at $179, right? Kind of where the numbers had to be. And if it was probably last year sometime, there probably would have been a 50-50 chance I could get the property for pretty close to $179, right? Because it was kind of a balanced market. This market is so stupid today that house was quickly bid up to $219.
Whoa.
Right? So any house that is clean is getting bid up 10 to 15%. I have never seen automatic escalation clauses in Fresno. It's happening now, right? People are saying, hey, this is my offer. Like, just take the 200K house. I'm going to offer you 210, but I'm willing to go to 218, something like that. I talked to a broker, because again, I do this stuff every day, folks. I talked to a broker 3 weeks ago who listed a property that had 43 showings on Sunday and had 21 offers by Monday morning for a nothing house, for nothing, like nothing special, not a particularly good price, not a particularly good area. It's just, it was clean. So what am I seeing today? In today's market, if you can buy a total junker that doesn't qualify and have cash, you can make a pretty good money flipping today. You have to make good product. You got to be in and out in less than 4 months. But yeah, I think there is tremendous money in flipping. If you would have asked me in March, right when this thing hit, I would have said flipping was the worst thing to do because financing dried up. The exit was uncertain. People weren't going out. But dude, markets change. And then the other thing I would tell you is rental housing is on fire, right? I have never seen such low vacancies and rental increases in single family homes, but multifamily living on top of each other, very tough today, right? What we are clearly seeing is space is good. And then the last thing we are seeing is Fresno is an easy 2.5 hour drive from the Bay Area. People are being told they can live from anywhere, work from anywhere. So we are seeing Silicon Valley money buy $1 million properties in Fresno like I've never seen before. So I think Fresno is going to win when the Bay Area loses. I am very happy to own a lot of single family homes, and I'm still looking to add to my portfolio. I'm adding single family homes or residential properties, fourplexes and below. because I think in 3 to 4 years, just like I wrote about in the book, Steve, we're going to 1031 into apartments because I think there's apartment pain coming. It's just farther down the road. So housing, clean houses are increasing in value. Flipping could work today if you could be in and out in 3 to 4 months. And I'm actively buying as much junk as I can.
And it's interesting you say, and I think this is very much a moment in time, right?
For sure.
There are moments in time that you see this because you're so, and this is what's pretty cool, I got to say, is because you are so hyper focused, you have seen even a slight shift, it kind of raises an eyebrow, like,
yep,
why did that shift?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you start, that's like a rippling in the water, right? And now you're going, okay, something's going on because the numbers, are they realistic? Well, yeah, they're realistic right now because it's a moment in time. Now, will it be this way in January? We don't know, right? Yeah. Nobody knows, right? And so it's one of these things that's why knowing your market and being so hyper focused on what's going on is key, because it is ever changing. It's going to keep changing. It's never stagnant. Somebody told me the other day, they said, this reminds me of the grand finale at the fireworks show before it goes dark. Like it's like everyone's going crazy, but nobody knows. That's just a perception, right? I mean, but again, making sure the numbers work and making sure that is the key, right? Emotions can lead you astray, right? We all know, right? Knee-jerk gut reactions, that is not the way you invest. Showing the numbers and you're saying, look, like it, love it, or leave it, these numbers make sense. So I'm going to keep moving forward on the numbers. And I think that's great what you're doing, and you're pivoting, right? You're not saying, no, I'm anti-flipping. I'd never do that. You're going, look, the numbers are saying it makes sense right now. Maybe it did make sense 6 months ago. And I think that is important for people to realize and learn, that you've got to be able to pivot like that and go not where your emotions are, not where your gut is, what the numbers are telling you.
Yeah. And that's the beauty, as you said, about being in one market, right? Because I could have clearly tried to diversify and get to other markets. And not only would my time be just split, I would not be able to be as intimate with the data. I wouldn't have the relationships. Why do I say flipping is good today? Well, I have talked to 15 or 20 agents who tell me every clean property is going for 10 to 15% above list, and they're appraising. Wow. Well, hello. That seems like a pretty easy answer to me. Go buy as much junk as I can because I got some cash, and go spend the 40 or 50 grand to make a great return. And again, let's be clear, like you said earlier, I have never been a flipper. I built my entire portfolio buy and hold, buy and hold, buy and hold. But today, like any other time in history of my market in the last 20 years, owner occupants are coming out in force. And with interest rates where they are, they can go from renting to owning. And I might as well fill that inventory. I don't know how long it lasts. It'll be somewhere between 6 and 18 months. But as long as it's there, I'm good. And the beauty, again, of knowing what I know, my worst case scenario is I buy it with the numbers that I can always hold it as a rental. So if I buy something and I can't flip it because interest rates doubled, oh, well, I just got to keep this one as a rental. So I never buy anything with only one exit strategy. My worst case scenario is I keep it as a rental, and I'm okay with that.
That's smart. Well, Michael, man, as always, I love these conversations with you, because I learn stuff all the time, and every time we've talked, I'm just thank you, for imparting your wisdom. I'm sure a lot of people will get that. I've got 2 final questions for you that you probably have not been asked before.
Awesome.
But I'm going to ask them. So the first question is, what do you want to be best known for when everything's all said and done?
Well, I will have hoped to create something that outlives me by 100 years. And that is, I've created a book and content that lives on, that I've helped people have a better financial future. That's the most important thing for me the next 50 years.
Great. That's awesome. The last question I have for you. Last question I have is, of anyone that you've ever heard about, read about in time, if you could have a beer with them, who would that person be and why?
The biggest guy for me would be Warren Buffett. He meant a lot to me when I was, getting my finance and economics degree. He meant a lot to me when I was learning the stock market. He's become more influential as I've gotten older with just his mindset, right? His whole idea about you're an investor and you have a punch card of 10 punches, right? Which basically for me is what I teach today. You don't have to say yes to everything. Only do great deals, right? He teaches a lot of things with a kind of quasi stock market feel, but if you really dig in and look at what he's teaching, live below your means, invest for the long term, be conservative, ownership. I would love to have a beer with Warren Buffett.
That's awesome. Yeah, I agree. That would be a definite learning experience, and it's probably so simplistic, but yet so complicated, you know, which is interesting. Well, Michael, again, man, I appreciate it. If somebody wants to follow you on YouTube and everywhere, what are all of your social media handles that they can get a hold of you?
I am really lazy. Everything I do is one rental at a time. The book is on Amazon and Audible. YouTube channel is one rental at a time. Instagram, one rental at a time. That's just who I am.
That's awesome. And again, for those of you that want to get involved in real estate, especially if you want to learn how to invest in multiple markets and be hyper focused, this is the guy that I would send you to. So definitely look him up, follow him. He puts out content all the time, great content, great videos. So watch his YouTube channel, definitely worth doing. And everybody, if you're interested in talking about property management, Mynd Property Management is in 19 of the investable markets across the United States. They've got proprietary software and information to be able to have boots on the ground, as well as give you the access of being able to be hands-off and part of that team, which I think is very, very important when it comes to managing your assets and growing your net worth. So you can go to our website at mynd.co. It's mynd.co. If you want to follow me on social media, you can go to Rosenberg Steve. That's ROZENBERG Steve, or you can follow us on Facebook at Mynd on our Facebook page, or my Facebook page at Steve Rosenberg. So everybody watching The Mindful Investor, thank you so much. Michael, I again, 2 times, great information, great knowledge and insight, and I wish you the best. And I hope that next time we're talking $1 billion in assets and you're just killing it. So hopefully you're on that track and you'll be that way. So thank you so much for being on, everybody. On behalf of Mynd and myself, thank you for watching, and we will catch you all next time. Bye-bye.